Margins. I'm your host, Ralph Newell, and today our special guest is 2025 Arthur Ashe Female Sports Scholar of the Year, Jada Ross from the University of Oregon. Welcome, Jada.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Um, not sure how much you're aware of what goes into us selecting our winners, but it's a pretty arduous process. We've had to narrow the scope, in other words, sort of increase the criteria for how we select our student athletes over the years. We started out in 92 where students had to have a 3.0 cum, and we've had to raise it to 3.5 just to give us some room to breathe to sort through every nomination because we actually really read every single one and go through it and make some comparisons and judgments, etc. And this year, you rose to the top, clearly above the rest. It wasn't even close, to be honest. So I want to say congratulations to you for that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So you're from Oregon originally, right? What part of Oregon?
Yeah, I grew up in Medford, Oregon, Southern Oregon.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was in Crater Lake
Oh
last
yeah,
year, last
yeah,
fall. So
beautiful.
that's not far from there, right?
It's about like it's almost 2 hours, but
Really, it's
it's
that far? Okay.
yeah, it's just because it's out there, but it is really beautiful there, especially in the summer.
Yeah. Now you're in a part of Oregon. I understand that Medford is a part that doesn't get the typical weather of the rest of Oregon. Um,
No, yeah, it's kind of in a valley, so it's
yeah,
a little different. Yeah,
yeah, it's a good deal. So you grew up there. What was it like in family growing up?
sure. Yeah, I grew up. I went to high school at North Medford High School. 2 years in, I transferred to a charter school. So
Okay,
I went to Logos Public Charter School my second 2 years, but they didn't have sports, so I still competed for North Medford um, sports teams. But at Logos, graduated with my AAOT, my transfer degree, um, with my high school diploma, and was able to, be successful in both aspects of academics and athletics that way,
okay.
which was really nice. And um, yeah, grew up with my mom. I have a twin sister. I have two older brothers.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, and I mean, my sister is above me academically. So, I just always had a really good role model. She's like a minute older than me, which I never hear the end of. But
Right, right.
so yeah, I mean, pretty typical childhood. I mean, Medford's
Hmm.
pretty normal. Lots of animals. I'm a huge animal lover. Lots of dogs. Yeah.
Okay. So what was the inspiration for getting into track and field and specifically the shot?
Yeah, I did like every single sport when I was younger. And in middle school, I was doing basketball, I was doing year-round soccer, and then I was also doing football for my middle school team. And
Really?
I just remember being so busy, and I was at a basketball practice, and our middle school basketball coach is the head coach for the high school track team. And so one practice, he was just like, I think you should do track. Like, I think you should throw the shot put. I think you might be good at it. And I remember just shutting it down. Just, I have so much on my plate already. I'm not picking up another sport. Like, I'm already exhausted doing what I'm doing. I don't want to do it. And he just kept pushing and pushing. And eventually I was like, okay, I'll try it. So that year
Hmm.
in middle school, I tried track and um, just had such a good time and just found so much like immediate love for the sport. Um, I'd never found body diversity in any of the other sports I did. I was always a bigger person. I was always, bigger than all of my other teammates. And when I got to throwing, it was like, that's normal. Like that's the normal body type for this sport. So it was nice to like feel comfortable in a sport,
Hmm.
and kind of find something where, you'll see somebody completely different than me, and we both are in track and field and get to be successful in our events. So, um, my love for shot put was just kind of immediate, just because I knew that like, oh, this is like what my body's made for. You
Gotcha.
did have to fight against things and try to run a 16-minute 2 mile every month, or it's just like I just get to be strong and do what I'm kind of built for.
Hmm.
It was nice. Yeah.
Okay. One of the hallmarks of the Arthur Ashe winners is we really take a deep look at what the student athletes do in the community. It's sort of a three-pronged approach of looking at, what you do in the classroom, what you do on the field to play, as well as in the community. So, what in your background growing up made you a community-oriented person?
Honestly, I think it was that I had so many role models. I had so many people that I was able to just look up to
Hmm.
and see them and just be like, that's what I want to be. And I had so many different kinds of role models for all the different aspects of my life that if I can be that for one person, like that's all I need. That's all I want to feel kind of um that accomplishment for me. So I think just growing up and seeing that the examples that I had, I
Hmm.
just knew that that's what I wanted to be when I'm older. And now, like my favorite part of being in the community is I just like working with kids. So I go to a lot of different elementary schools and talk. And before I just recently got on staff for University of Oregon assistant coach, so I can't go to high schools anymore. But I was going to high schools and just helping out in practices and speaking to the team and doing one-on-ones if they needed to talk about anything, especially mental health. That's one of my favorite topics to talk about and really focus on. So yeah, I mean, I love just going to elementary schools and just telling kids that if you work hard and you love what you do and you do good in school, you can be successful. And um, I don't know, just trying to inspire one person. That's all I want. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, who you mentioned you had several mentors. Do you mind naming a few who they were
sure. Yeah.
and
I
how they
mean,
impacted you?
most of them were family friends, or
Hmm.
family. So a big one was Rick Hutchins, who has been there day one for me. He's just such a good person to look up to, and he cares about people, and he knows how to show that he cares about people.
Hmm.
He really took me and my twin sister under his wing, and helped us out, helped us find scholarships and how to get on this team. And he's has so much knowledge around what I did and what I do. So he was a big one. All my coaches, Aaron Williams and Peter Vasquez, huge, huge, huge motivators for me. It's just so awesome to have people in my corner that I know will support me no matter what path or road I take, even if I wasn't still doing track. I just know that they'd still be cheering me on. So, love them. My mom is a great motivator for me.
Okay.
And yeah, I just have a lot of people in my corner, and it like it just fills my heart, and I feel it every meet that I have. Um, every time I get to go home, I feel the love. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a
You.
great village back home. I always say it takes a village. I love that saying because it took a village for me to get to school, to get to college, and then to be successful in the sport. I just have so many people that helped me get here. So,
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. That you sounds like you had a village. So I
exactly.
know it's a great saying, and it's sometimes it's kind of hokey, cliche-ish, but it's so true to me that
Yeah.
it really does take a village to help people along their journey. And speaking of your journey, so how did you end up at the University of Oregon? What drew you there?
Yeah, I being just growing up in Medford, I grew up in green and yellow.
Hmm.
I was wearing duck gear from when I was like 3 years old. It's funny,
Okay.
I have like random throwback photos of just like me in like Go Ducks gear. And I think when I was like 5 or 6, maybe I went to a soccer game here, and I got to watch the women's soccer team. And um, just like I've just always loved Oregon.
Hmm.
I visited other schools and I loved those schools, but I just couldn't leave Oregon. I just love it here. My family's here. I have so much history and love here in Oregon. So I just couldn't see myself leaving. And then there was a great coach here, coaching who was recruiting me. The team here has a great chemistry. So I guess just everything put together just this was the right choice for me, and I am so happy that I made it. I don't know a lot of people that went their entire collegiate career at the same school, so I'm happy that I made that decision for me and it worked out.
Now it's funny you say that. I mean, just sort of when I was a student athlete, people, ironically, I transferred, but I was a very rare breed, back in the late '80s, early '90s of someone that transferred. But in this day and age, it does seem like people transfer a lot. And I think publicly we hear more about it in basketball and football. But you guys, you're seeing a lot of transfers with students in track and field as well?
Yeah, I mean, people got to find what fits best for them, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes this is a stopping point, and sometimes this is, the end goal, and everybody just has a different story. So, and there's a lot of people on the track team, so I get to see a lot of different stories, and people just finding what works best for them.
Mm,
But yeah, I do kind of see a lot of transfers, and um, yeah, I guess it's as common. It's not as common as those bigger sports, but yeah, it's pretty common, I would say.
mm-hmm. Um, I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but I'll just go there since we're kind of here. How much of that has to do with NIL? Our winner last year, ironically, also she was track and field. Olivia Womack, she was from Ole Miss, University of Mississippi, and I remember last year we talked about, there was disparities, at least in her case, as far as who was getting NIL money in track, and it wasn't always, the best athletes, if you will. Let the sort of politics into some things, but without getting into that, what did you see in regards to NIL, especially as it related to women's track?
Yeah, I mean, my experience with NIL, track doesn't necessarily see a lot of it,
Hmm.
in comparison to football or basketball or and it makes sense. Those sports bring in a lot of revenue for the school, but we don't see a lot of it. And if we do, my experience as a thrower, it's really hard to find money as a thrower.
Hmm.
Those more popular events like sprints and jumps and things like that. Distance here at Oregon is the big one. So those ones kind of get the more attention. But I found myself in a pretty comfortable spot. We have a great head coach who made sure to set me up with a good NIL deal here. Um,
Okay.
um, I didn't really have a problem with it.
Hmm.
Were there people that got more than me for sure, but I was pretty comfortable with what I had.
Right, right. Um, so while you were doing track, you obviously were doing, exceptionally well in academics. What was the biggest challenge with, juggling the two?
Um, let's
Or was
see.
it easy for you?
It did come pretty naturally, honestly.
Hmm. Hmm.
My first year here was COVID year, so everything was
Mm,
so I kind of already learned how to kind of work online, which is a big part of my academics because I travel so much. I'd be
hmm.
every 2 weeks you're in a different state. And so a lot of it's online, um, which I was already used to. Um, I would say the most challenging thing was outdoor nationals is always the same time as our finals week. So it always lands on our finals week, and I would always have to figure it out with the instructor or try to compromise if it was on the same day that I was competing. Um, but yeah, every outdoor nationals, I would find myself uh, studying really, really hard the week before, which gave me a lot of stress and um, then I'd be relieved like 2 days before. Like I'd take that test 2 days before I competed, and then I had a new thing to stress about. So that was kind of the
Hmm.
hardest challenge for me was learning how to mentally prepare for finals week slash NCAA's week. Um,
Right.
that was pretty tough.
And while you were in school, besides, like I said, juggling the academics and juggling athletics, you were spending time in the community there. Um, How did you do that? Was that something you did more so off season or in season? You did it year round? How did that work?
No, I think it's mostly year round. I think during
Hmm.
the season mostly because that's when schools are in. Um, and then during the summer, I coach at a local coaching camp, track coaching camp. So um, for working with kids, it's usually during the year.
Yeah.
Just kind of find time in the mornings um,
Hmm.
to hang out with them for a couple hours, or drop by track practices after my training, things like that. So everything ends up falling into place, and you find time for things that are important
That
enough.
important. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
so yeah, I mean, things just
Okay.
kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go back to maybe about this time last year, I guess. You're just finishing up nationals, right? And then next thing you know, you're at the U.S. Nationals and you make the U.S. Olympic team. So how did that work out?
Yeah, I mean, that was
Was that a
crazy.
surprise? Were you planning on it? I mean, I just,
It was the plan. It was the
yeah.
goal for the year. Every year,
Okay.
yearly goals in January, and that was the big one with the big circle and the star on it. So, um, yeah, I mean, it was a life goal of mine. I wanted to be an Olympian since I was a kid. That's all I wanted. One of my biggest mentors, Abby Wambach, on the women's soccer team, Olympian, and I just remember saying I wanted to be a Olympic soccer player, which switched up, but it's all I wanted to be. I wanted to be an Olympian. So, um, with this chance and the way the season was already going, I knew that this was a possibility for me.
Hmm.
And the meet came up, and it was a huge focus. I had four different peaks that year, so and this was my second one of the year. So it was just a grind. And once we got there during the meet, and then I made top three go to Paris. And so and I had so many family there. It was just surreal. It was just like a life dream come true. And I had so many people there to see it happen. So many people, all those mentors that I mentioned were at that meet. Um,
Hmm.
Everybody that was in my corner was able to see all the things that we had all done to make this dream possible. We all got to see it come true. So it was just like a really magical moment. And yeah, I mean, it was just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was, and I'm a big track and field fan, so I watched, as much of it as I could on TV when I saw it. Ironically, last year it wasn't even on purpose, but I was in Paris a few months before the Olympics, so I saw all the buildup that was going on, but I, wasn't there when it actually happened. So, was that your first time going to Paris, and how did you like it?
First time in Paris, and it was beautiful. It was very humid and hot, but other than that, it was beautiful. And the Olympic Village, I stayed there the whole time. I was there for, I think, 3 weeks or a little over 3 weeks. So I was over there for a long time.
Okay.
Olympic Village was amazing. Like, just insane that I just would wake up every morning and I would walk to the cafeteria, and you just walk by world record holders, or you walk by people that I've looked up to my whole life, or that I've been studying these people, and you just walk by them and they're just normal people. And
Hmm.
everybody has their own story, and it's just really, really crazy. So the whole experience was awesome. I got to go out after I competed. I got to go out on the town, and I had some friends that came, so we all went to this little pizzeria and hung out for a while. And I totally got lost on my way back to the village. I'm really directionally challenged, so it was really tough for me. I like got in this Uber um, back to the village, and then we're driving for a long time, and then he's like, "Okay, we're here," and it's like not the Olympic Village, and so I'm like,
Right.
"Oh no, like I'm not getting out of this car. Like I need you to take me back." And he's like, "Oh, you have to get out," and like we're just going back and forth on our phones because he doesn't speak English and I don't
Right.
speak.
Right.
So we're just like going back and forth, and I'm like, "Please take me home," and he couldn't. So I'm like, now I'm walking around and my phone's dying, and I found this like bar that someone spoke English in, and I'm like, "Please, like, can I have a phone charger, please?" And he was like, "If you buy our most expensive drink, you can have a phone charger." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Really?
doing it. Yep, done."
Wow. But wow.
I did
Talk
that.
about taking advantage.
Oh yeah, I did not mind. I needed help. So
Yeah.
I charging my phone up. I called my representative, and she came and got me. She took like three trains to come and get me and three trains back. So it was a whole experience, but I'll never forget it. It was really
Yeah.
awesome.
Who did you meet that someone you wanted to meet, you looked up to, or it was just a chance meeting? And
Yeah, I mean, all of the throwers were really awesome to meet.
okay,
Ryan Krauser, he's our world record holder, men's world record holder in the shot, and he's from Oregon.
okay,
That was really cool. I've met him before, but I haven't like had conversations with him, or I got to sit in on his training. Joe Kovacs, Raven Saunders. I
yeah,
got to watch their training, and it's just really cool to see people do what they do so well. So, really cool. Um, I'm blanking on some other names, but I got to meet some really cool people.
yeah. What about on the what do you would call it, the opening ceremonies
Oh yeah,
on the
the
boat?
opening ceremony.
Like who was on your boat that we met?
We had the women's basketball team.
Okay,
We had everyone was on the boat, but I was on like the back side of the boat. So I was
okay,
like the wrestlers and the fighters and um who else? Uh some basketball girls. Um, yeah, and then some throwers, some other throwers. But
okay.
the boat was a whole experience. They had us in this really fancy suit-like outfits that were heavy. And then the rain came and they got heavier, and it was just pouring rain on us. And we're just on these boats waving to like just I've never seen so many people, just so many people, and we're just going down. Um, and it was really awesome. It was a whole experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so funny. I remember seeing that the American came in fourth. I didn't know you per se, and so it's sort of ironic that, you're one of our scholars this year. And I went back the other day and I was just looking at it, how close were you from medaling? That was a razor thin edge. Um,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, she barely placed ahead of you. I don't know how you looked at it. Some people would say, wow, you finished fourth in the world. That is tremendous. But finishing there, what impact did that have, finishing fourth, just short of the medals, as far as inspiration for moving forward?
There's two sides of it. The side that I most lean on is that I am so grateful for that experience. And I just ranked fourth in the world at the biggest meet in the world. So, it's just crazy to be able to say that and to be in that moment. So I guess just how grateful I am for that opportunity and
Yeah.
how proud I am of that season that I had and how long I was able to keep that up and finish fourth. And then there's the other side where it's like, yeah, I could have medaled, right? Medaling's great. I wanted to medal, but I wasn't disappointed in myself at all for not medaling or anything like that. But it did build a lot of motivation for the next 4 years. And I'm also grateful for that. I get to have that little push, that inch and a half that I missed out on a medal on. There's like a little bit of, oh, I wish I had that, but there's just so much more of just like what an opportunity and how happy I am about the season that I had.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Simone Manuel? Do you know who she is?
Uh-uh.
She was an Olympic swimmer from, I want to say, Stanford, and African American lady, and I think she's the first African American woman to medal in the Olympics in swimming. She was an Ash Scholar, so
Okay, cool.
yeah, I literally just thought about that, just thinking about. I know we've had a lot of scholars through the years that have been Olympic athletes, but honestly, the vast majority of them have been international students.
Mhm.
um, just a handful of U.S. students, and obviously
Mhm.
you're one. You're still going with track and field. You're not competing anymore at the NCAA level. I think when we were texting each other earlier, you were in China, so you are now competing on the professional circuit with track and field.
Yes, I just signed with Nike, so I'm throwing for them. I have an amazing agent, Karen Locke, who set me up with everything that I have, and
Hmm.
along with Jerry Schumacher, our head coach. So yeah, I'm training here in Eugene, same coach, Brian Blutrick, um, and I'm just on the Diamond League circuit right now and going to USA's here in late July, and then hopefully making that world team.
The world team for this year?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Why do you think track and field is so much more popular outside the U.S. than it is here?
That's a good question. I think, and not that this is a bad thing, but I think football rules sports here. And I
Hmm.
think that that's a lot of the focus, and it does bring in a lot of money, so I understand it, but I think that that's a huge focus here, and it's not really a focus anywhere else.
Back in the 80s, there was a lot of indoor track that used to, Mobile used to sponsor here in the U.S., and you would see the U.S. athletes competing. And it would be on TV, but now only the Worlds and the Olympics is the only time you really see attention paid to it on television here. But being a person who did track and field in high school, did football in college, but I love it. And whenever I can see it and watch it, I love it. My nephews ran track, so I would go to their meets. But yeah, I never really understood. Actually, I really didn't even think it was anything that you could go pro in until I found out later in life, that there was
Wow.
this whole circuit in Europe that people run
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in the world. So good. So once you put the shot put down, what are your future aspirations? What is it you want to do after track?
Yeah, after track, I think I just wanna, stay involved in the community. I plan on being a social worker. I
Hmm.
wanna work with kids. I don't really know anything specific about what I wanna do yet in that field, but I know that I wanna be somewhere in there just helping out and being there for someone. That's kind of where I think I'm headed after track,
Hmm.
but that kind of feels a long way away. So I haven't put a ton of thought into it, but I know where I want to go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we're getting close to the end here. Well, how about you tell us something about yourself that most people wouldn't know?
Ooh.
Like any funny hobby or food interests or
I love music. I play a lot of
okay.
guitar, I write music. It's one of my favorite hobbies to do, and I actually learned guitar by watching my favorite artist is Ed Sheeran, and I just watched YouTube videos of him playing guitar, and I just taught myself through watching him. I was able to figure it out, and now it's just one of my favorite things to do. Love music. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't he do a cameo in Game of Thrones playing a guitar
Did, yes, he did.
or something similar?
And I
Yeah,
actually
I remember I was watching it and I didn't. I just thought he was, an extra, if you will. And I think
yeah,
I saw on social media the next day that that's who that was.
yep, yep, yep. It's
Yeah,
funny.
I was a fan of his music, but I didn't know what he looked like.
Oh, okay, yeah, he's just a little redhead. Actually, I got to meet him a couple years ago. So I was going to a concert in Seattle. He did a random pop-up at a Starbucks in Seattle. I like busted over there, waited probably 10 minutes in line and got to meet him and tell him how much he means to me and everything. And it was really cool.
Last thing I'll ask you is, you might not see it, but you definitely have had a large impact on some people, and you definitely will leave a lasting legacy, um, just for what you've done already. But, what message would you want to convey to the young athletes and young scholars about your journey and what they can achieve?
I think I'd want to tell them that the biggest part of this sport is finding passion and love for it,
Hmm.
and everything else will fall into place. You just have to keep working hard, keep your love for it, and you will find a way to make everything happen. Um, yeah,
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jada. I really appreciate it. We'll get the copies of the magazine out to you when it comes out June 5th. This is also when this podcast should be airing. And we just thank you and appreciate your time. And again, congratulations.
thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me.
You're welcome.